First item is roll call.
Alderman Arnold.
Here.
Alderman Totten.
Here.
Alderman Coleman.
Here.
Alderman Headley.
Here.
Alderman West.
Here.
Alderman Bannon.
Here.
Next item is invocation led by James Kleister of Mission Woods Community Christ Church, followed by pledge of allegiance from Alderman Bannon.
If everyone here doesn't mind, I'd like to take just a moment of silence for not just our victims from Las Vegas, but also the victims of the hurricanes, the victims of the earthquakes, the victims of all the wildfires that are going on out west and the shootings around the world. So if we could take a moment of silence tonight, I'd be more than happy to do the invocation. O most gracious and loving God, Lord Jesus, we come to you tonight so thankful for your presence. We stop and pause for a moment to remember your children that are hurting and suffering throughout the world. People have lost their lives, they've lost their loved ones, they've lost their homes. And we know, Lord, that through it all, you are in control. Lord, we want to thank you for this evening, for being with us, for watching over us, for taking care of us, and for your presence that we know is here. Lord, we ask a special prayer over each of our leaders. We ask, Lord, that you please open their hearts and their minds to you, to your will, and all that you would have them do. We thank you for them, Lord, and for their willingness to be such an important part of this community. Please, Lord, be with all the residents and the family members in this community. Please help them to see each other for who they are, and that is a child created in your image. Please help us to remember that you've asked us to love our neighbor as ourselves, and to put out a helping hand for each other. Help us to forget our differences and to remember our similarities. Lord, we praise you for this time together, and we thank you for your presence which is here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is the approval of the agenda.
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
No changes. Seeing no changes, move on to proclamations. First proclamation is Grand Valley Historical Society celebrating their 25th anniversary.
City of Green Valley proclamation, whereas the Green Valley Historical Society has served this community for 25 years as a source of information relative to the history of the people who live here and those who have in the past. And whereas they strive to preserve the past by collecting photographs and artifacts, some of which are on display at their museum. They also store documents that include information related to the history of Green Valley, yearbooks, and photos. Whereas the Green Valley Historical Society assists people who are seeking information on their family's genealogy. They have information on churches and businesses, both past and present. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Green Valley, Missouri Board of Aldermen and I, Mayor Mike Todd, do hereby recognize the Green Valley Historical Society's dedication to the preservation of the history of this community. Signed this 9th day of October 2017, Mike Todd, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have agencies who help us with the roundup. Come on up.
Proclamation, whereas during the period August 2 to 5, 2017, the city of Green Valley was the location of the National Biker Roundup, a large event held annually throughout the United States. Whereas the event was expected to attract 15,000 to 20,000 attendees in Green Valley, placing a great burden on the Green Valley Police Department to handle planning, logistics, crowd, and traffic control. And whereas during the course of 1 year of pre-planning, several area law enforcement agencies were actively involved and offered support, equipment, and law enforcement support from their respective agencies. And whereas the event took place with minimal problems, with an effective, coordinated effort by multiple law enforcement agencies, resulting in no serious accidents, crimes, or injuries. And whereas personnel with the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Troop A, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Oak Grove Police Department, Buckner Police Department, and Blue Springs Police Department were actively involved in the planning and staffing of the event. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City of Green Valley Board of Aldermen and I, Mayor Mike Todd, acknowledge the outstanding assistance of those law enforcement agencies in successfully handling this major event in Green Valley. Signed this 9th day of October 2017, Mike Todd, Mayor.
All right, next up we have citizens participation. We ask the citizens come forward to the podium microphone and address the board. And please give your name and address to the record. Have any citizens who wish to address the board this evening?
Ann Drill. I live at 1035 Ephraim. I was at the last council meeting, and I went home, and quite frankly, I lost a little sleep. And what I lost the sleep about was your discussion of the stop sign. I think I kind of felt, well, it's not a problem for me personally. I'm a citizen of the city, and I kind of felt if citizens get together and they ask for a stop sign, they kind of ought to have a stop sign. Then, and I heard about the accident, a child being hit, which really concerned me. And as I looked into it, I realized that the one on Montana Ridge and Stockman is a few blocks down from where my son and daughter-in-law and my grandsons used to live when they lived in Green Valley. And I used that road every day, 5 days a week, from the time they were 3 months until they went off to preschool at 3.5. And it concerns me a great deal that we might be endangering people, and that the people who live at that intersection probably know better how dangerous it is. I would hate to be in a city that loses a child or anyone as a result of an accident at an intersection, especially one that's been highlighted by the citizens who live in that intersection. And it really bothers me, and I'd just like to, I guess, if it bothers me, I think you ought to know about it. Nobody has to wonder what I think. So I just wanted to say that I feel if a group of citizens feel that a stop sign is needed at their intersection, they ought to have the stop sign. We'll dig the hole and cement it in if necessary. But and especially if there's been an accident, and even more especially if that accident has involved a child. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Mike Switzer, 210 Cannon Street, Green Valley. I'm here to give the city a great thank you, and I need to learn how to set this thing up for people of size. As you know, on October 3rd, we dedicated the Veterans Tribute, Legacy Plaza Veterans Tribute, and I'm just here to thank some of the city staff who helped. Ryan was one of our speakers. Mayor was unable to make it. We're sorry we missed you. We really did. And we had several aldermen there to bring in to help the flag raising, and especially the Parks Department, who was able to help us set up some chairs and get the chairs down, and we tried to keep everything clean for the park, and they picked up the trash barrels, and they did an excellent job. And we can't thank the Parks Department and the city staff for everything they do for helping us out. And the phase 1 is not quite completed, but will be completed in sometime in the next month, and then we'll be starting to think about phase 2 and phase 3. Thank you very much for all your help and for helping us honor the people who have stepped up and put their lives on hold for the defense of our country, and some of them who made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to address the board?
We'll just do it this way. Scott Schaefer, 1006 Southwest Shorthorn. I come in front of you tonight for a couple things. One, the stop sign issue, B1720. Safety is a big thing for all of us. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. We want to protect all our citizens, no matter what. But as we all know, we can put up all the stop signs we want to put up throughout the city. Putting the stop signs up is not the issue. It's being able to enforce the stop signs. Unfortunately, we cannot do that at this time. Adding stop signs all over the city is not going to be the solution. Now, years ago, when I was on the board, I brought this same issue up for Montana Ridge, that we had an issue with speeding and people not paying attention to the laws. And I met with staff, we visited, and one of the reasons that we did not proceed with putting stop signs up is the state guidelines. The state guidelines is something that we need to follow. I believe we should follow for the simple fact that it puts the city in being jeopardized in lawsuits. And trust me, I do not want to see anybody hurt. I understand that. I am all about safety. I've worked on heavy highway all my life. Safety always comes first. Stop signs, like I say, are not the issue. It's being able to enforce them. So after meeting with staff years ago, and we talked about it, we come up with the idea of a traffic officer, which I believe in this same discussion we're having years later is the way we should go. Now, with the traffic officer, this person will, like they did before, will be targeting areas that are called in by citizens to patrol the issues that they hear about, just like they did before. If there's a speeding going down Montana Ridge, then the traffic officer will go to Montana Ridge, will patrol it, move around the city. Now, the argument back then was, why can't our regular officers do that? I can't speak for them. I can only speak for what I see when I'm out driving around. Personally, I think our officers need to be doing what they're doing right now, and that is patrolling the streets, taking care of all the other things, and our traffic officer can take care of the traffic violations as far as running stop signs, speeding down our streets when they're not supposed to be speeding. A couple of issues that I see with just going to Montana and adding a stop sign is, if we don't follow the city regulations, then where's it stop? So I come to the board and they go, well, you put one on Montana Ridge, well, why is my Shorthorn good enough to put one on Shorthorn? I think we ought to have 4 or 5 on Shorthorn. So then, the next guy that lives over on Manning Street, they're gonna want 4 or 5 stop signs. Where does this stop by adding all these stop signs? If we do not follow the state regulations, we're just setting ourselves up for a very bad scenario, in my opinion. Now, Ryan Road is a perfect example. I live off Shorthorn. My deck, back of my house faces Ryan Road. Ryan Road on any given day, especially on weekends, turns into a drag strip. I can watch, last weekend I literally watched a motorcycle go from the school intersection up the hill on one wheel, right away. You know, and it's nothing, and I'm not thinking on our officers by no means. It's, our officers can't be everywhere all the time. And that's why I say a traffic officer will be a huge plus. Now, there's a reason why Blue Springs has 2 traffic officers, and I believe Oak Grove even has one. With the growth that we're having, I think it only makes sense to reinstate a traffic officer to help with just traffic, while our officers patrol our streets for all the other stuff. Let's see, let me check my notes here, folks, I'm sorry. I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to say. I'll field any questions, because like I say, this is a battle that I battled 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's an issue again. So if you want to I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff that happened before. If the board has any questions, I'll answer what I've learned in the past. One other thing I'd like to address the board is, a few years back, I brought to the board's attention, I'd like to see this, see our city move to a charter. We have grown, we're growing this year, and next year is going to be, I don't even know where we're at. I know we're well over 14,000 now. Talking to one of the builders, the lots are few and far in between nowadays. Excuse me. Thank you, Dale. I think it's time we move forward from a chapter 4 to a charter. Some of you I know are familiar with the charter, but with a charter, it gives the citizens more rights to vote on stuff on the ballot versus, like, for example, the racetrack is a big issue. Imagine that. Then one of the other issues was the trash service. That was a big issue. These are things that could go in front of our citizens. And one of the things that we all know working on our elections when we did was we had 10% out of 14,000 voters come out in an election. My thoughts, my feelings are, if you give the voters more to vote on, we'll see more people come out and vote. Maybe not big numbers, but we'll get more people out to vote. With that being said, that's all. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's all I have for the board tonight, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board? Seeing none, move on to the consent agenda.
Move that we accept the consent agenda.
I have a motion, Alderman West, to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Coleman. Any discussion?
I have one question about, under accounts payable, that we sponsored fireworks show for the fair. Did that come to the board, or just another elected official's done?
Yeah, no, it was part of the sponsorship for the fair. We have the, I don't even know how much it is every year, I'm trying to think. It's a certain amount that we dedicate toward it used to be the chamber sponsorship, and now it goes over to the fair sponsorship.
I don't know that I'd like seeing our tax dollars go up in smoke. I know that, it could have helped elsewhere, not necessarily been earmarked for fireworks. Just, I think sets a bad tone basically burning up tax dollars in fireworks. Probably more an accounting issue as to where they list that expenditure out of, but somewhere around $4,500 what we were supposed to be putting in from working from memory.
For the chamber?
Yeah,
I think it's, yeah. Oh, yeah.
the total sponsorship or whatever.
Yeah, I wanna say it was about 5,000, something like that. I mean, I can get those numbers for you.
Okay. That's all.
You want anything on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. See no previous business, new business or presentations, move on to public hearings. Have establishment of zoning for southeast corner of Buckner Tarsney Road and Duncan.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I'll let Mr. Murphy recap this.
Mayor, members of the board, this is the piece of property that just went through the annexation process at the last meeting. The second read was approved, so this is the area directly north of Greystone. As we discussed a little bit then, the proposed zoning for this, the majority of it is R1 single family, and then the front part, the frontage on Buckner Tarsney will be C1, which is just a general commercial district. But this is the same type of plan. You could see the site plan was in your packet for it to kind of show what they were looking at, but it is R1 and C1. It's a combination.
Anyone have any questions for Jim before we open it up?
Just one, as far as, that being built out, single family and potentially commercial, will there be any conversations that you guys start with, either Jackson County or the state relative to possibly widening Buckner Tarsney or putting turn lanes in or something?
Yeah, so with part of this development, they will have to, since it's not our right-of-way, they will have to get approval for, if it needs a turn lane or whatever. If you think about Greystone, there is kind of an in and out that had to be added for that to account for the traffic. So they'll have to go through that same thing again. There's still some property on the west side in that area that is not in the city limits. And then there's still room between the north side of this and Duncan Road that won't be in the city limits yet. So I don't know, long-term, yes, we need to look at what you're talking about, but right now, I think there's so many pieces there that wouldn't be connected that I don't know that it's feasible at this point.
I think pretty soon we're gonna have to start looking at getting help with a turn lane just to get from Buckner Tarsney to Duncan, just because of the traffic flows. And I mean, even this weekend with all the stuff going on just north there, I mean, traffic was backed up, most of the way back to, not quite Casey's, but it was backed up pretty far.
Okay.
And, I know traffic's not gonna be like that constantly when all the residential goes in, but I can see it getting worse and worse if we don't start thinking about that stuff now.
Anyone have anything else?
I have a question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. So in the aerial view that's part of our packets tonight, we're talking about the blue square, is that right?
Yes.
And if I'm understanding this right, the zoning classifications are both residential R1 and commercial?
So it's two strips. So the strip, if you can imagine the strip kind of north-south on the site plan here, it's just these two parcels that would be the commercial. So just the front part that's along Buckner Tarsney. Everything back of that would be R1. So they wouldn't be mixed together. Does that answer your question?
Are there any required barriers between the commercial and the residential that are code enforced?
We have not got that far yet. This hasn't even gone to preliminary plat yet. That is something at that time, though, that we can look at. A lot of times it's not uncommon to have fencing or landscaping in between the two, I think.
Anything else? Okay. As is a public hearing, we ask anyone who wants to speak for or against the proposal come forward to the microphone and podium. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board regarding this proposal? Okay. We'll close the public hearing then. Move on to ordinances.
First ordinance is a first read, excuse me, Bill B 17-19, an ordinance establishing the zoning for certain land in Green Valley as R1, single family, and C1, central business district for Justin Martin. First reading, Bill 17-19.
I move that we approve Bill 17-19 for its first read and move it back to the second read by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Arnold to approve Bill B 17-19 for its first read, bring it back by title only for its second read. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Totten. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I'm happy to answer any questions for you, but this is the item that we just held the public hearing over.
Questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
6-0, first read, Mayor. Next item is Bill B 17-20. It's also first read. An ordinance amending traffic code Schedule 2, stop intersection section of the City of Green Valley Municipal Code. First reading, Bill B 17-20.
Mayor, I move that we accept Bill 17-20 for its first read, bring it back for its second read by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Arnold to approve Bill B 17-20 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
I think it needs to go in,
Hmm?
I think we need to find out the legalities of all this.
Well, do you want to second it? We didn't really discuss it, let's just second it.
I wish to discuss it, so we know what we're doing.
We can't really discuss it unless we have a second, correct, Jim?
Correct.
Well, then I'll second it and then we'll have a big discussion.
Okay. Second, Alderman Totten. Now discussion.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, everyone's aware of this discussion. It's been ongoing for a little while. It's to add four-way stop signs at Montana Ridge and Stockman and Nelson and Leanne Drive. As we've shared in the past and in the memo that's attached, staff does not recommend approval of these stop signs simply because it does not meet the MUTCD guidelines or warrants.
Mayor, can we give some consideration to the comment that we heard, the public comment with regards to a traffic officer like we had at one point in time? That seemed to be very effective.
Yeah.
That's something we can look into
Budget talks,
again.
right? Budget talk, and we definitely get the numbers and
Is that
talk
in
about
our
it budget time.
That was the question when we did it the last time, is that it wasn't in the budget, and it was projected the number of tickets or fines or whatever that he potentially would be able to write. Those numbers fell significantly short and made it where the position did not fund itself as it was intended. And I think that is part of the reason why that position went away and was absorbed into the normal force. I think we have enough officers to take care of it, because I've seen a very proactive activity whenever I've brought issues of attention to our chief. He saw to it to put people in areas of concern, and I've seen a positive outcome from that. Even when we spoke about this last, officers were placed there watching the area, and had several comments on Facebook and a couple of calls from people that stated that they appreciated law enforcement being there to try and slow the traffic down. But no matter what the issue is, I don't think we have enough officers to set there and everywhere else that we have an issue. This issue, just like the one that follows, is another situation where it doesn't necessarily state that you need signs there, just like it doesn't state that we need stop signs over in the subdivision that we're going to talk about in the next issue. that particular issue, we're looking at to add several stop signs in there, and if it was required by the same MTCD guidelines, it would most likely had those signs already placed in there, because we're pretty proficient about doing that. Our Public Works does a very good job of making sure to put in what is necessary. But we're going to be looking at taking actions to put parking signs in keep parking on the one side, which is going to affect a lot of people there, similar where this stop sign might be doing up in Montana Ridge and on Nelson. And both issues are going to be done for reasons of safety, to try and protect the public out there, and to bring some attention to those that don't think beyond the issue right at the moment. So, you know, if we're going to state that just because this is not required by the guidelines, how can we go around and turn around on the very next issue and place signs that may not be required by the guidelines because they're not already there? We're putting them there for the same reason as we had for the stop signs above, people asking for public safety in their community. So.
I guess my question is that the consensus of the residents in that area? I mean, have the residents in that area voiced a concern that there needs to be stop signs there?
There have been consistent cries of problems of speeding there. There hasn't been a real good idea how to deal with it. We've tried the traffic officers, we've tried the speed humps. They're effective to a point, and I'm sure the stop sign is going to be effective to a certain point as well. But it's more cost effective than putting in the speed hump putting it in and taking it out twice a year, expense, man hours, and so forth. So it's as much a budgetary issue as a safety issue. I've got an email here. I think everyone has a copy of a gentleman who lives right on the corner of that intersection. I spoke with his wife a couple of times. She is real concerned about their 4-year-old daughter out playing in the driveway for fear that she might get in the street because of the way people drive through the neighborhood. She really thinks the stop sign would be nice. There's another one here states the person lives off the main drag, but feels a stop sign there. She has no opinion one way or the other, but feels a stop sign would slow people down, which is the opinion that I share on that. It's halfway down the hill. It allows them to stop, regather their thoughts, and then continue down the road, at least not continuing to gain speed as they come downhill or go uphill. As far as the legal issues and concerns about, you know, liability, if we put a sign up that doesn't follow these, we've already gone through a process here of finding out the need or non-need. And legal at last meeting stated that we wouldn't have any more of a concern with this sign than we would with any other sign, unless something has changed since last meeting.
I'm going to bring up, I got an email today, and I don't even know I'm getting an email because I'm not even in that area. However, they are against having a stop sign there. If you want me, I can read this email, but basically it's saying that they would prefer not to have any stop signs there because it would create bottlenecks for traffic and trying to get through. So for the amount of people that are saying that they do have an issue, I think that there's probably just as many people saying that they would prefer not to have that.
I have a lot of questions about this. Not only at the issue, but kind of around it. The emails that are at each of your seats tonight were hard copies that Clayla was gracious enough to make from emails that I had forwarded to her, so that you all could see at least the mixture, broadness of some of the responses that came in. A couple of these emails reference a flyer that was distributed, and I'm curious, did the city put out some kind of a document about this that we know of, or was there a...
No. I went through the area and put flyers on the doors to let people know what we were doing, because so often people don't know what we're doing. I know the city did put door hangers on the doors over in the area where we're talking about the parking sign. They did that on their own. I didn't see the same type of action being taken on this, so I went out and put flyers on with your information, my information, just basically asking the people to let us know their opinion one way or the other so we could act appropriately on the issue.
Well, for the record, I would appreciate just a heads up if my name's gonna be attached to something and gonna go out like that, I would appreciate knowing about that ahead of time, if you didn't mind. So secondly, the question that I've got here is, as I've been up here on this chair now for a few months, I've asked a couple of different questions at different times. You know, I inquired early on about the speed limits on Minter Road. I don't know if you remember me asking about that or not, but the response I got at that point in time was that the speed limit that was identified for Minter was based on a request of the folks who live there. Is that, do I have that correct? That's how we established the speed limits on Minter Road, was that we took some sort of an informal poll of the residents that live on Minter and established it that way, is that right?
I remember a question being asked about it, and Mentor is kind of a unique situation because you've got city and
one side city, one side's county.
and one side actually is, two sides are different, if I remember.
The west side and the east side.
I don't remember specifically.
I asked that for the point of consistency. If we're gonna cite standards at one point of a consideration of an important matter, then that's important to do. I'm an engineer, I live by standards and codes, and I won't deviate from that on this issue. That's just bred into me, that's just how I work. But what I would ask, for the sake of consistency, is if we're going to take a poll of the residents who are impacted by these issues in one instance, and then choose to do something different in another instance, I think our approach to these things should be much more uniform and very structured in terms of how we review and consider those kinds of things. But as you can see from the emails that are shared with each of you, there's a party here who would like to see a stop sign added. There's a party here who definitely would not like to see a stop sign added. And then a third response is one that favors the enforcement option. So, at any rate, wanted to just get a couple of questions out on this, make a couple of comments about it, and then share with you where these messages came from for tonight. Thank you.
And one of those is still the same email that was mentioned by Mr. Coleman.
Okay.
Yes. Anyone else have anything? Well, I mean, I can add, I did put this out on my mayor's Facebook page, and it got shared on some other ones. And I checked across the camera, I did have a little over 2,500 views on that. And I had 31 comments, and out of the 31, 3 of them, well, I had the parking and the stop signs together. Out of the 31 comments, 3 of them were in regards to the stop signs, and they did want to see I didn't have any comments on the Nelson one, but I had 3 comments on the Montana Ridge one. They would like to see the Montana Ridge one, so I told them that I would share that for information. And I think 2 of the 3 were from the same family, so they had the same last name. So. But we had a lot more comments on putting a stop sign at Snybar and 40 Highway, which I didn't ask about.
What was the count again? I'm sorry.
With what?
The rough count of for or against.
Well, it had over 2,500 views. If that's what you're asking, right?
Mm-hmm. And as far as the responses go,
It was for it and it was against it. That's what he's asking.
Well, I didn't have any that were against, and I had 31 comments. I had 31 comments, and 3 were for it.
Okay.
And that's out of the 31 comments, only 3 of them
3.
commented on the stop sign.
Okay.
And they were all on the Montana Ridge one, none on the Nelson one.
3 of them wanted it.
So I got my numbers right.
28 of them didn't.
And like I said, they were, 2,587 people read it, and there were 31, I said 31, and then 3 that were for the Montana Ridge one. Nobody else addressed the stop signs other than Snybar and 40 Highway. So. Okay. Anyone else have anything then? Okay. If not, then, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Let's take a poll, just so we have it for the record. Bammon,
No.
West,
Okay, what are we,
Headley,
No.
Coleman,
No.
Cotton, Arnold,
Yes.
Next bill is B 17-21, an ordinance amending traffic code schedule 4, parking prohibited section of the City of Green Valley Municipal Code. First reading, Bill B 17-21.
Mayor, I move that we accept Bill B 17-21 for its first reading and bring it back for its second reading by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Coleman to accept Bill B 17-21 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Headley. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, again, you all will be familiar with this topic. We had a public discussion about it on the 25th, I believe it was, September 25th, which had been, we notified the residents of that discussion on the 13th via door hangers. This is recommending that we place no parking signs along Clear Creek Drive, Coldwater Creek Drive, Deer Creek Drive, and Wolf Creek Drive. Where this deviates from the previous ordinances that our code, the city's code states that the city engineer can determine what areas shall be no parking if the road is less than a specific width. And so with the previous case, we would follow the guidelines of MUTCD because they outline that. With this one, the discretion is to the city engineer. That's all I have on this one. Staff does recommend approval.
Okay. Okay, before I just blank on me, I had also put this on the same Facebook post. So the same amount of people, I had multiple people share it regarding the parking, but only one person actually commented on it, and they thought that it would allow insufficient parking due to like the driveways are not long enough for vehicles to fit in on one side. So that was the comment I had there. And then I did have some comments about just making the entire town no parking on the side street. But specifically this one, it was just the one comment, and they were against it. So, anyone else? Any other discussion?
I'll bring up the fact that, so we had one person comment on that. We had four people that actually showed up to our last meeting.
Yeah. Now, I will say, Russell did message me and said he couldn't be here tonight, and they still support it, so that's.
We have four homeowners over there that are.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Right. Yep. So, I think, that's all I have to say.
may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is nobody else caring? Is that why we don't wanna get involved?
I know that you guys know the issues with the HOA and the lawsuits that have been involved, or at least some of you know, maybe not all of you. With the majority being tenants, including the guy that commented on your Facebook, they don't care. They just wanna complain about everything and don't care to have anything fixed, or they break stuff, or, so at this point, you know, the guy that owns the majority is in California, so he doesn't care. So there's 9 homeowners, and we're kind of stuck on our own. And, you know, like when we're talking about the stop signs and all that, and I'm all for safety, but there's people that go through the stop signs nonstop in our neighborhood, and one of the streets that they do is a dead end. The cops could sit there and do ticket after ticket after ticket, but I hardly ever see the cops come through, every now and then, but not very much, and I'm concerned that if we don't have one way, there's going to be an emergency, and the fire department can't get through, or the ambulance, and I did see the fire department come through a few days, and I don't know if somebody, requested that because of, you guys are doing your research, but you're coming through when people are at work. If you come through in the evening or the weekend is when everyone's parked there. I know the police department's come through twice and given tickets, but I know one time all the tickets were retracted. So, and then they came through maybe a month ago and told people, oh, you can't park this close to the stop sign. Well, as soon as you leave, they're parked in front of the stop sign and the fire hydrant. So, I don't know, just like this gentleman's recommendation of that officer, something definitely should happen. That's just
Anything else? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
6-0, first. Bill B 17-22, first reading, an ordinance approving the final plat of Gray Lee Park. First read, Bill B 17-22.
Mayor, I move that we accept Bill 17-22 for its first read and bring it back for its second read by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Arnold to approve Bill B 17-22 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Hesley. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, this project has been through planning and zoning and approved. It's for 17 lots and 4 tracts, situated between, to the west side of the Snybar Farms
Ryan,
property.
This one's Grayley. This is the one at
I'm
Duncan
sorry,
and
I
Russ.
skipped one. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Mr. Murphy's going to talk to you about this one.
You did a great job of explaining the next one, though. This one's at the northwest corner of Rust Road and Duncan. So this is the final step. You guys have seen this kind of all the way through. We did the voluntary annexation process and then the establishment of the zoning, which was R1 single family. The preliminary plat was approved through planning and zoning, and then the final plat was approved at the September meeting. So this is the final step for you guys. Nothing has changed with this since their initial submittal for the annexation. So this is looking at a typical single-family development, 63 lots. So that 63rd lot that looks kind of big and different from the rest, if you remember, that's the house that's currently there that will be staying. But other than that, once final plat is approved, we'll get going on pulling permits.
Do we have any discussion, questions?
And this is all single family?
Yes.
Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
6-0, first, Mayor. Bill B 17-23, first reading, an ordinance approving the final plat, Snybar Crossing Phase 4. First reading, Bill B 17-23.
Mayor, I move we accept Bill 17-23 for its first read and bring it back by title only for its second read.
I have a motion from Alderman Arnold to approve Bill B 17-23 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, if you will recall that one time that I got ahead of our agenda, those comments apply, and I will turn it over to Mr. Murphy.
You were almost done with it, though. As Mr. Hunt said, this is 17 lots and the 4 tracts. The 4 tracts are to account for stormwater, and those tracts are to be deeded over with the lots that they touch. So again, this was all single-family homes. This one's taken a little bit longer, but this is also the final step in the process.
Okay. Have any questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
6-0, first reading, Mayor. Last item is a resolution. It is Resolution R-17-37, a resolution by the Board of Aldermen, City of Green Valley, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Midwest Pool Management for the management of the Green Valley Aquatic Center for 2018, 19, and 20 seasons. First reading, Resolution R-17-37.
Mayor, I move we accept Resolution 17-37 as read.
I have a motion from Alderman Headley to approve Resolution R-17-37. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Bannman. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, sorry, this is, the process that we go through every, 3 years. We go out and we bid, pool management services out. I'm gonna let, Shannon describe the process that we went through as well as the respondents that we received.
We did go out for bid, put out an RFP for contractual services for management of our aquatic center, which was back in July. Pretty much the whole month of July, the bid was open for those that were interested to submit those bids. We did get 2 bids in, and since the end of July, we've basically been checking references and making those phone calls and doing research on both entities, trying to get a good background on their experience in this area with municipal aquatic facilities. And feel like we're to the point now where we're ready to move forward with one of those 2, which you have listed in your packet. And I tried to provide as much information that was provided from both entities with their references and what they have put in as far as their proposals are concerned. But again, I'd be willing to answer any questions you may have.
This is the same pool service we've used since '09.
That is correct. We've had Midwest Pool Management on board since 2009. It is one firm that I can confidently say that we have been very pleased with, which sometimes can be a rarity. They are local. They are their head offices are in St. Louis, and then they have a satellite office in Independence. They are well known in our field, and they really specifically focus on municipal aquatic facilities as opposed to HOA pools or things of that nature. They have employees that are former Parks and Recreation employees that I know very well as well that have that background from the municipal side and need to be fiscally responsible and sometimes the budgetary constraints that are involved with municipal government. And they've been really great to work with. We've had little to no complaints with them over these last 9 years that we've had them on board. But yeah, we've been definitely pleased with their services up to this point.
Any other questions?
And the contract allows for you to get rebates or the discounts for weather issues and that sort of thing if they don't.
That is correct. We do receive a reimbursement every year. The salary portion of the proposal that they've provided is based off of when the pool is actually open. And there will be days throughout the 101 days of a pool season where we may open late due to weather, we may close early due to weather, we may not open up at all. And then we are not being charged for those days where there is nobody working. We pay the full amount up front, and then based off of the documentation that they provide on hours actually worked, we receive reimbursement. So in 2016, it was a little over $8,000 that we received a reimbursement for. 2015 was a little over $14,000. 2014 was $14,500. And so if you have a season where we get considerable amount of rain or low air temperature, we will receive a sizable reimbursement.
Shannon, not to put you on the spot, I don't mean to do this, but you just said something I want to see where we are. You made a statement on information that they provide in reference to reimbursement? Do we keep any kind of record so
They
that we
provide
can
us-
kind of,
Yeah, they provide us that documentation that shows throughout the whole year where the hours that are actually worked. So we,
we have nothing to coordinate against that to see if it's,
not to a detailed degree. I mean, we will log our concession staff, which, just so that everybody knows as well too, these are strictly the management and lifeguards, so it's the safety part of it. The Parks and Recreation Department, we still retain all concessions employees, the pool gate. We do, from beginning to end, the swim lessons, the water aerobics, provide the private pool rentals and so forth. But part of the concessions workers' jobs are to document when we don't open, when we close early, when we open late, so we can kind of track that.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
6-0, Mayor.
Okay. Next up, city attorney's report.
Nothing to report, Your Honor. Thank you.
Next up, city administrator and staff report.
We'll start with, Chief Starbuck.
Just going to give you an overview of, probably saw, about 2 weeks ago, we did the third consecutive year of the operation with Kansas City Southern Railroad. They refer to as cop on a train. And, the railroad, at their expense, they bring in locomotives, on a weekday. And, they will supply the staff. We put an officer in the locomotive, and we position, probably patrol cars, and they will literally, for about 2 hours, they just go back and forth, and what we're doing is monitoring individuals that choose to disregard and violate and drive around the railroad crossing arms, which obviously is an extremely hazardous situation. The officer of the train will radio to the stop arms. So we did that again this year, and, we actually stopped and ticketed 2 drivers for driving around the stop arms, and then also, encountered a, individual who was trespassing on the right of way on the tracks, and, the railroad police handled that situation. So, we're very appreciative of their offer to do that. They do that in various, municipalities, along the line. Gray Valley's a little bit more unique, because we actually have, 3 different rail crossings, so it takes a little logistics planning, but, it benefits. It really is good, because we played up a lot of social media, I think, not so much the ticketing, but the public awareness and the safety issue. Generates people.
All right, Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update. This last Saturday, we had our household hazardous waste event over at the Jackson County Public Works facility. We had 6 individuals there. Jackson County had 6, and the Heritage Recycling Group that ran the program had 5. There were also two individuals there testing free emissions tests for vehicles. And they had about 190 cars. I think exactly 190 cars is what somebody told me. They anticipated 200, and so it was a pretty good success. Most of those were from Green Valley, so just wanted to give you guys an update on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'm gonna pass out a staff report with the budget process, that we are currently going through. We have a lot of resources dedicated to that, which is why you're just now getting the August, month-end staff report. September staff report was due, last Friday for department heads, so you will be getting that, soon. And I want to remind everybody of the Truman Heartland Gala that we have upcoming on Saturday from 6 p.m. down downtown to Sheraton. Host of the town, guest of honor will be our Citizen of the Year, Mr. Jim Cook. So far we have Yolanda, Bob, Nancy, and Mayor, signed up for that event, so, I'll send out an email later this week, to give you guys a heads up on, carpooling and how we're gonna get down there. If anybody would like to ride, you're welcome to ride with Julie and I. The other item that I handed out was the final poll, for the budget workshops. As you can see, we have, multiple dates on here. We extended it out to November 20th, for the budget workshops, and the only date we were able to get everyone available is November, 1st, which is Wednesday. So first, I would like to find out if the board, is interested in setting that first workshop for November 1st. Alderman Totten, you have question marks in your spot just because I didn't have a chance to visit with you before this after I printed it off.
Well, that's okay, and I'll go home and look at the calendar and tell you what I got going.
All right. So, as for now, would we like to go ahead and proceed with scheduling the first workshop on November 1st? The next best that we can do is, the 24th, Tuesday the 24th, Wednesday the 25th, and Monday the 30th. Those are all days where we have 6 people available. 2 of those dates, Mayor Todd's not available. 1 of those dates, Alderman Headley's not available. So, Wednesday the 1st is the first day where we have everybody available.
Let me double check my calendar, Ryan.
I have teacher conferences those nights,
Okay.
but I can I may not be right at 6, but
Yeah, I mean, that would be great if we could get one of those evenings, and then schedule, Wednesday the 1st
I mean,
as a
Tuesday,
follow-up.
Tuesday the 24th is probably the best one for me.
Okay.
I'm not here at 6, it's like 6:30 maybe.
Yeah. Alderman Bam just said, what, 7, or you wanna do 6:30?
Start it a little later, would that help?
I mean, I can be here by 6:30 probably,
Okay.
on the 24th.
All right. So we will plan on our first budget workshop being Tuesday, the 24th, at 6:30. And the second one will be, the following week, Wednesday, the 1st, November 1st.
Historically, how many meetings or workshops have been needed to work through the budget discussion?
You know, we can usually get through everything within 2 meetings. Yeah, there's times where we've had 3. I think there's one year where we even went into 4, but we prefer not
We've
to.
had more than that for
Yeah.
sure.
The idea is we'll kind of set this, a guideline of what we're gonna try and get through on one night, and we will just go until we get through, you know, a certain fund, and then we'll move over to, the next fund at the next board meeting.
And my calendar did change since I turned this in, so
Oh, okay.
I'm open on the 30th,
All right.
since you put it all on me.
Like that. Okay, well, so we're gonna do Tuesday the 24th and Wednesday the 1st, Mr. Mayor, or,
No, it works for me, yeah.
okay.
Are we going 6:30 on the 24th?
Yeah, I go 6:30 on the 24th, and then I'm okay, 6 is okay on the 1st for me.
6 o'clock on the 1st,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, very good, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Next up's the Board of Alderman reports and comments. Alderman Arnold?
I just had one question, presentation made me think about it. We talked about doing a finance study on the cost for the law enforcement for the national bikers visiting us, and just curious if that had been taking place, and...
You figure what the cost is involved?
Right.
I'm, working on an after-action report. Actually, I just today finally nailed down with the, planners of that, exactly what they were showing as, 8 to 10
Alderman Cotton?
Well, I'm gonna say thank you, and I wanna guarantee everybody's entitled to their opinion. And on the computer, there was some nice things said, I guess, about me and my place. But I wanna say thank you for bringing it up. We got $460. A man volunteered his truck to help me get to the cannery because our old trash service didn't do it for me anymore. They sold and the new one wouldn't. But I'm proud of everybody, and we're going to the food pantries this week. And thank you, all the ones that come and bring their cans, and I'm sorry if everybody doesn't like it, but I think the food needs to get in the stomach myself. So thank you all.
Alderman Coleman?
Nothing to report at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Headley?
Just one thing, I noticed when I was driving in, on the north side of Duncan, right before you get to Maravik, there's a intersection sign knocked over into the ditch. It's a yellow triangle, or not triangle, but diamond sign. It looks like someone may have gone into the ditch at some point.
Alderman West?
I just wonder if there's any update on the OATS program. We're gonna get some additional information on that.
The online polling that we hoped we would get a lot out of, we got, I believe, 6 responses. So that was a little underwhelming, so we're actually looking to see if we can do some sort of paper version with the KCATA, the Transit Authority, who are the ones that put together the online questionnaire. We had put notices out in the water bill and tried to get it out on Facebook, and apparently that's just not that was not the right way to go about it. But we have, through the Truman Heartland Group, which the supervisor for OATS attends those meetings, we're actually looking at putting together an application for next spring for, it's a 5310 grant program that would put, like us, Independence, well, not us, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and there might have been a couple other ones together in kind of a pooling application to try to cover some of those costs to be able to get citizens around to the places that they need. With the idea being that the cities wouldn't have to bear that whole cost. The plan is actually to try to work with the county to get them to be another partner, and that be kind of the glue that brings all the communities together. Because right now everybody's kind of just got some individual programs, so there's no, it's kind of just a free-for-all on what anybody wants to do. But we are still working towards that. We hope the survey would bring a little more clarity to what people wanted, but that didn't work out this time.
So could we do something like at the senior citizens luncheon, do a poll there? I mean,
we can. That's one of the things with looking at the paper versions, is just handing them out at events like that and allowing people to fill them out and then leave them there. We can tally the responses that way and get them over to the KCATA. So you'll probably see that actually in the November meeting.
Alderman Bamman?
I just have a question tonight, Mr. Mayor. I had shared, I think, possibly copied you, I don't know, and I forwarded on to Ryan a citizen's complaint about a dog barking. I was just curious, what constitutes a violation, and how do we go about validating that complaint, and then what do we do about it if it is validated to be a valid concern?
So in that situation, you emailed me about it. I took it, forwarded it to the police chief, and he had animal control go out and take a look at it.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the code reads about how. Typically, it's something, if a dog is unprovoked and continuously barking, that sort of thing, that's they can be cited. I don't know specifically.
Now, our animal control
without that signed complaint, there's really not any action taken.
There might be some, like, we'll look at the property and the code violation. Sometimes it's just putting the owner on board with awareness. She's very aggressive in doing that. She'll love everything.
Great, thank you.
Typically, let me respond to that, typically that's the worst kind of case I have to try in this work, because there's always acrimony between and among neighbors. There's always someone that has an axe to grind, according to one of them. The proof, to answer your question, I've had good evidence. I've had some people who actually audio record. The animal control officer typically is a witness if he or she has been out there and listened and observed for a period of time, more than a minute or so.
Okay.
And most people who are serious about making complaints keep pretty good records of times, dates, frequency, reasons the dogs are out there. It's not fun.
All right, well, thank you.
Anything else? Nancy, your time has passed, but I'll be nice and go back to you.
I would like to ask the police chief if he would please have them make us up some copies, because I've got a neighborhood watch going pretty good now. And by the way, the dogs do bark when I go down the street in the middle of the night, because mine barks when you see somebody. But if you could, this is older copies that I've had for quite a long time, have the links, or if you got some in your stash, that I got a meeting, and one of the issues in there, two of my neighbors filed a complaint, two gentlemen come onto the property, took tools, however, the prosecutor only got them for trespassing, and it was because they couldn't prove they put the tools on the ground.
Well, we couldn't prove they took the tools.
Well, but I mean, the tools were laying on the ground, and it just upset them, so I looked in that book, and it says if we mark our little tools with their name or a number, then that would do, so this is another reason I want that done. Because I finally got people reporting and signing complaints, everybody doing it right.
Okay. Next item is mayor's report. I have nothing additional to report. We do have a need for an executive session for real estate.
Sir.
That's the only reason. I will entertain a motion then to adjourn into executive session for real estate.
So moved.
Motion Alderman Arnold. Second.
Second.
Second Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Alderman Arnold. Alderman Totten.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Headley.
Yes.
Alderman West.
Yes.
Alderman Raymond.
Yes.
All right, we'll adjourn the executive session.
You just call me when they're ready.